Alright, so we did Generation 1, no EXP. We did Generation 2, all the Pokemon are random. We did Generation 3, all the Pokemon are random. We did Generation 4, no damage. Now we're doing Gen 5, no EXP. I'm gonna have to do something insane in Gen 8 because it's pretty easy. Yeah, like Gen 8 is like, don't use items. You're not allowed to grind. Like, just something dumb like that. In Gen 8, the challenge is to lose.
Challenge accepted. Pokemon fans around the world will consistently tell you that nothing beat the sensation of their first game. Whether that be the charming and sometimes breathtaking scenery, or balancing a team of monsters to rise and face the challenges ahead, Pokemon fan origin stories are almost altogether heartwarming and represent the best that the property has to bring out in people. I'm certainly no exception, but as much as I'd love to regale you with the story of Aaron, the Squirtle in Fire Red that I named after my best friend at the time, that's not why we're here today. Pokemon, like any other title, grew and expanded, far beyond the initial scope even. The second generation titles of Gold and Silver were planned to be the final Pokemon games, and the love motivated by this underlying sense of urgency gushes from every inch of these games. And even after they learned that they would be surviving, that feeling didn't seem to waver, I mean, at least for a while. Fans fell in love with Hoenn and Sinnoh, the following generations of Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and Diamond and Pearl respectively, a trend that continued for a while. No matter what criticisms that you and I may share for any of these generations, we can't deny the commercial success. But right now, let's look ahead, past 2.5D, into the realm of 3D Pokemon. That's right, Pokemon's first mainline titles for the Nintendo Switch, Pokémon Sword and Shield. The 8th generation of Pokemon games released on November 15th of 2019, but the fire under them had been burning for months prior to this. In the days and months leading up to their release, fans' bated breath began to slip from their lungs as they learned more and more. An incomplete Pokedex? Put it in a bucket, sell it back slowly as DLC, put some islands in there. Embarrassingly low textures? Well, just hope no one looks too hard. Wild area. Oh, that seems cool. It's just one, and it's practically the length of some of the routes in the other titles. And what were some of these animations? But a few clung to faith. Serenaded by sweet dreams of Hoenn horns and brass, they woke on the morning of release day to hope for something new. Maybe the rumors were wrong. Maybe Game Freak had learned something after it. Let me ruin it for you. It was all still there. There's plenty more too. While some ran blissfully unaware of the critics and simply enjoyed what the Galar region had to offer, others were not so quiet. I believe the driving force was not just some half-assed parts. It was about what they felt had been a consistent, half-assed effort as a whole, and they were getting sick of it.
Enemy took Alpha. Charlie secure.
I myself can't say I support Game Freak's current model at all. They're slowly crushing themselves and the good rapport that they've built with some people since their childhood. Something needs to change. That's why we're here. Remember how I used the word challenge at the start of this video? Well, that has been one of Generation 8's biggest criticisms. The difficulty is what one might call miserably easy. From the new XP candies that can be earned from raids, a uniform party EXP mechanic, and a minigame curry system that rewards you with friendship and XP bonuses just for wagging a fucking cat toy!
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
It's not hard to get ridiculously overpowered early on and sweep the story like it's a bad restaurant freezer.
Why
is this missing over 300 Pokemon?
What the hell are you doing? Can you stop bullshitting for once?
Now, as much as I can appreciate what these new mechanics do for the quality of life when it comes to people who enjoy the grind, I definitely feel that they are robbing some people of the challenge that earlier titles carried. But it made me wonder, how easy are these games? Really, I mean, at its heart, Pokemon is an all-ages series. That naturally includes children, but given that, these games can't be impossible to lose at, right? All these questions. I knew I had to do something about them, so I proposed this to myself. Beat Pokemon Sword while trying to lose. For all my old teachers, by the way, here's that in scientific method. If I can beat Pokémon Sword while excessively handicapped, then the difficulty of these titles deserves rigorous rework. Let's get into our conditions. We use basic Nuzlocke rules as a foundation. You can only have one encounter per route that you can capture, and after each gym badge, you can have one encounter in the wild area, whether that's the grass or a den. Permanent deaths if your Pokémon faints. There is no extra grinding. We can't grind dens, wild encounters, no Pokemon Center healing. Later in this run, I encountered a problem with it heals you before and after every gym, and Hop has prescriptions for Adderall in 3 different names. So there's a lot of free healing in this game, but it's why we have to add this to the challenge. No healing items in battle, no potions, revives, anything like that. No gift or trade Pokemon. There's a couple around the region, but I don't think we'll be missing out on too much. And most importantly, only one damaging move is allowed per Pokemon. Now granted, there will be times at lower levels and in between party changes where Pokemon will have a few damaging moves, but I'll still only be picking one. Sounds impossible in any other title, right? Well, you and me will be finding out together. As we progress through these games, we will explore the best and the worst that they have to offer, and hopefully we can all come out with something new from this. This is a disclaimer, by the way. Do not let my game experience define yours. This is a manufactured experience being used as a vehicle to criticize the game. If you like these titles, more power to you. I even have my own things I like about these titles. But I urge you, if you won't hear me out, listen to some of the other creators on the platform who have made shorter or longer videos or anything. Whatever's your flavor, I'll put them all down in the description. Please, for the sake of fans who have been upset at a company for years, I implore you to give it a few minutes of your time. But right now, we're here to learn. So let's get to it. Sword and Shield open with a simple selection screen. You're prompted to pick 3 things: your language, your default character skin, and your name. For this challenge, we named ourselves Suffa, because that's what we'll be doing this whole run. Suffering. You're informed that the game has registered you and are whisked to a webpage in a foreign, almost runic language. A video pops bearing the emblem of the Pokémon League, a circle severed on one side with 8 small circles orbiting within it, presumably to represent the 8 gym leaders. The shot that follows introduces us to the stadium atmosphere and one of the game's main characters, Chairman Rose. Rose takes the pitch, straightens up, and Yeah, he's mute. Nobody has a voice in this game. Oh, actually, Eevee and Pikachu have credited voice actors, but no one else. While this isn't unexpected of Pokemon games, voice acting in these cutscenes would have not only been an incredible touch, something new for a new generation of Pokemon games, but it would have added an energy, a life to these moments that goes squandered as a charming model simply flaunts himself around the green. Even a non-voice that Animal Crossing and other similar titles use would have done wonders for the atmosphere here. But we'll just add it to our missed opportunity counter. A Dragonite up there in the corner of your screen will be keeping track of that for you. Say hi. The cinematic continues and the player is introduced to not only the world of Galar, the England-inspired region of this game, but the world of Pokemon. And I must say, it does a decent job of tangling you in. And one of the reasons for that is something that we're also going to talk a lot about in this video. It's posturing. You know, the way Qfant, a heavy steel type, lands with a firm thud, the way the camera angle sweeps across the Pidove, and Rose's showboating attitude. There's personality being built here, which, with or without a voice, is intriguing. It makes me care about the people that I'm seeing in front of me. After the formalities, Rose passes the baton to the undefeated champion, Leon. Leon enters in a truly champion fashion, a fuse of fireworks that leaves Leon's commanding form in the dust. This is another example of building believable character. Leon adjusting his weight on his foot and the small exhale to clear the dust around him. He's moving not just like a real person, but like a confident champion would, right down to his victory pose. We're briefly introduced to Raihan, Leon's rival, and the Hammerlock City gym leader. They banter before Leon hits the win button and Dynamaxes Charizard. The camera sweeps up, and the game's logo flashes. The next scene opens, and it's time for us to start our story. The scene is a traditional village-style town, and the camera swings in on our heroine, lounging at home before a visit from our rival, Hop, changes everything. Hop is the energetic brother to the champion, Leon, and his love for his brother is evident from his first few lines of dialogue. Hop mentions that even though today is our big day, quote-unquote, he makes sure to have his brother's match recording at home, just like always. Hop makes his exit, and the game continues to open much like any other Pokemon title. You get your bag, your clothes, and you're on your way. But before we get too far, I make sure to change our battle style to set in the options. This keeps us from being able to counterpick trainers as they send Pokemon out. We dab on our mom and take our first steps into the big world. I want to go home already. We take a brief stroll through our small farming hometown of Postwick. This is likely taken from the parish of Postwick in the English county of Norfolk. The town's slogan is, "A farming town since the days of old, where people and their Pokemon live in close harmony." And the town definitely breathes that kind of atmosphere. I mean, it reminds me of where I grew up. It feels like the perfect place for a fresh start. Hop's mom informs us that Leon is at the station north of Route 1 in Wedgehurst. So off we go. Leon arrives with flair to an adoring public that Yeah, we're starting to get really fishy with these animations. Okay. But Hop has this cute moment, and Leon parts the Red Sea to come meet his #1 fan. Fuck, that's heartwarming. Leon watches Hop take off and laments how if Hop had someone to push him, he could become something great. It's a bit of humanization that we're left to hang with as the brothers take off back home. The shot returns as Leon reveals he's brought us gifts. Our very own starter Pokemon. The kids have their fun and we're presented with the choice: fire, water, or grass. The choice was obvious to me. Not only is Grookey best Pokemon, but Grookey encounters the most trouble early on, being checked by Milo, the first gym leader, and double-checked by Kabu, the third gym leader's ace, Scorch. We nickname him after another monkey that doesn't know when to shut up, and Hop picks Sobble, while Leon picks up the counter, Scorbunny. That's gonna be great later. Everyone comes over to celebrate in the evening before we're awoken the next morning with our first Pokemon battle. Hop's battle is unique as he's one of the only rivals to start at us with 2 Pokemon already under his belt. Unfortunately, his Wooloo basically exists as a crutch to earn us enough EXP to learn our first stab move, and since Logan Paul is a physical attacker, Branch Poke makes quick work of Sobble. This battle is, once again, a missed opportunity. It would have been interesting to maybe give Hop a weak Pokemon, but one that counters our own type, like a weak Salandit or a Sizzlipede. Something to introduce new players to type matchups early on, instead of just making this an A-button mashing fest. We get our first free heal of the game from Leon, who tells us to go see the professor in Wedgehurst to get ourselves a Pokedex. But a runaway Wooloo prevents us from going any further, so we put on our spurs and shit kickers and get our way on to the slumbering Weld. The Weld opens on a shot of dense, damp woods blanketed in a thick fog. This gives the forest an almost dreamy feeling, like a place removed from not just Postwick, but the world around it. There were a few forced encounters on the way, but the Nuzlocke challenge doesn't start until we get our first Pokeballs, so these are null for now. We take ourselves deeper into the woods, entranced by the equally hazy beats of the background music. With noises that sound almost like twisted howls, Pokemon once again shows off one aspect where it never falls short: its soundtrack. While Junichi Masuda stepped down from composing this generation, his colleagues Go Ichinose and Minako Adachi, who have both been on the series since the 2nd and 5th generations respectively, have taken over and brought a delightful flavor that we'll definitely sample more of as the game progresses. We make our way deeper as the fog thickens before... This forced interaction with a legendary is certainly unique. You're left to flounder across all of your available moves, while Zacian stoically stares at you and churns fog from the vape inside of it. Apart from the ghost encounter in Lavender Town, I can't remember the last time Pokemon forced a sequence on you that made you feel helpless. Like you couldn't do anything to the thing right in front of you, because you can't. You are an outsider in Zacian's home, and right now, it doesn't want you here. After passing out, we're awoken by Leon, who tells us that we've been gone for hours and he's been worried sick. He already found the Wooloo for us, and after commending our decision-making, it's also revealed that Leon possesses some prior knowledge of Zacian. While Hop brings up how we encountered a Pokemon our moves couldn't touch, he replies, "So, the fearsome Pokemon they say live in the Slumbering Weld. Are they actually illusions or something?" We don't ask many further questions, and we're whisked back to our adventure. Oh yeah. Mom. While Mom ponders how much she can sell our exotic monkey for on the black market, we tell her that her tween-aged only child is leaving her to rot alone in this farmhouse. She does the only thing a responsible adult does and gives us money to buy drugs before we leave. We manage to dodge the monsters in the grass and make it safely to the Pokemon lab. The interior of it inspires a modern feeling. The books seem to even breathe knowledge. There's a puppy! It's a puppy! Professor Sonia greets us from above, and her dialogue shows us that her and Leon share a former acquaintance. But the one thing they don't share is a unique animation for going down the stairs. I see you with that camera angle, Game Freak. I know what you're doing. Sonia shares with us that her and Leon were rivals back in the day before lamenting his airheaded attitude towards everything. She eyes our Rotom phone. Please help him. We are buying Pokemon trapped in electronics from Vodafone before giving us the Pokedex. And yeah, here's another one of those missed opportunities I was talking about. Why do all the characters just hand you invisible nothing? Like, what is she grabbing down there? Not to mention that Sonia has been largely stiff this whole conversation. I mean, a great change here would be to show Sonia actually taking the phone and tapping at it or something. Anything to make it feel a little more believable. I digress. And Sonia asks us to visit her grandma, but not before a man on the street gives me a cup of lean and a pat on the back. We find a rare candy around the corner and do some exploring before Hop informs us that he's now a lobbyist for Big Pharma and asks us to use the Pokemon Center. Under duress, we spend some time here and buy a few potions and status items for the road. Hop guides us north to Sonia's grandmother's house on a path to receive an endorsement from Leon so that we may embark on our gym challenge. Speaking of, the legend himself shows up to teach us how to catch Pokemon and leaves us with 20 Pokeballs. But nothing here looked exceptionally charming, so we blaze through our first battles using, of course, only Branch Poke, since we've chosen it as our damaging move for now. Nothing too big on the way. Logan Paul learns Taunt and, with a rare candy, reaches the lab at level 10. There's a small exchange between Leon and Professor Magnolia, where she mentions she wishes Sonia would take after her research, but she eventually welcomes us. We all talk in the kitchen about the Dynamax phenomenon, the mysterious effect of Pokemon in the Galar region growing to incredible size and power, but it's sidetracked by Hop begging Leon for an endorsement. He agrees that if we can show him a good battle, he'll consider. So we take this business outside. This time, Hop carries 3 Pokemon: Wooloo, Rookidee, and Sobble. However, even Sobble is 2 levels behind me, and Logan Paul's brute force is enough to end the match with light work. Leon congratulates us on our hard work with our letters of endorsement, and just like that, our gym challenge has officially begun. And then it's sad that this whole event is barely touched on past Leon saying, "They say wishing stars fall down for those who have a true wish in their heart, you know." Give me more! You missed an opportunity to build the lore here. Look, I know they're curious rocks with an unknown power and that they can be fitted into Dynamax bands to channel that energy, but where do they come from? A legend, anything. Sonia, where did you come from? Sonia offers us dinner, but since it's curry, we can't eat, and Suffa had to go hungry that night. After a violent episode of morning hot flashes, we put on enough foundation to make it look like we have our lives put together, and join the rest of the gang in the kitchen. Sonia grills us about our encounter with the mysterious Pokemon in the Slumbering Weald before Professor Magnolia gives us our Dynamax band. We're informed that we'll only be able to use them at areas with power spots, like gyms in the League. And after that, it's time for us to head back to the train station in Wedgehurst. But not before our first official encounter, a Galarian Zigzagoon that we name Gabby Hanna, because we're gonna have problems. Oh man, let me tell you, this Choodle right here, that fucking Choodle would have saved my ass later. We make it back to Wedgehurst, but not before grabbing our other encounter along Route 1, a Rookity that we name Toby because they're both so okay. I accidentally fucked up the nickname screen while I'm trying to make this stupid joke, but thankfully we made it back to the Pokemon Center where we could apply a proper nickname. It's still Toby. It's still Toby. Hop gives us Swift at the station, and our moms come to see us off and give us camping gear. Why couldn't it just been Robux? Nonetheless, we give thanks and board the train away from Tutorial Village. Our quest for the first badge really starts on the train to the wild area. And once again, we get blindsided by this actually charming scene. The initial movement of the other passengers and the anxious foot tapping adds a level of depth. I mean, it feels like how two kids really would react. They're eager to get on their next adventure. We're shown a couple Instagram posts of the wild area before we exit the train and enter the jungle. This sucks. This shot is meant to be an establishing shot, a bird's eye view of what Game Freak thought would be an enchanting landscape, something that would wrap players in and make them want to explore for hours, but there's so much hampering this. There's nothing popping out apart from those small tower ruins in the corner pocket and a lot of running water. Why wouldn't they make this feel like undeveloped wilderness? No bridges. Make it feel messy and rough like a forest and a plains would be. Have more ruins of Galar's first people being swallowed by the foliage. While dens and overworld Pokemon are cool in their own regard, they just look like tools and pawns until they occasionally smile and charge you. This feels like a massively missed opportunity. Give the Pokemon better idle animations, something to fit their character, even if it's just little things, like Butterfree twirling and gliding, or Ninjask's movements being deadly fast. How about Quagsire splashing at the water? A few seconds of these would really make it feel like I'm in the wild and out of my element. In its current state, it feels like a big, disappointing park. Sonia ambushes us, and things aren't going too well with her grandma. She tells us that she said, "Those two young trainers are setting out on a journey, but what are you doing with your life?" It's here that the judgmental dynamic between Sonia and her grandma is exposed, driving her to leave to research Dynamaxing in the hopes that maybe she will finally get the recognition she deserves. It's not a bad motivation at all, and in fact makes you feel something. We've all been in situations where we felt the pressure of other people's opinions and being compared to the world around us. We go our separate ways, and she leaves us with the Box Link, a tool that allows us to access the box system without patronizing Big Pharma. Diving headfirst into the wild area, and we know we're here for a good time, not a long time. We have one den, and that's it. Dodging wild encounters because that's what 80 Hours of Mercy looks like. And it's a dupe! Still, I knew it would be stronger than whatever we had right now, so we jumped right in. Logan Paul went dummy big, and it was an easy catch overall. We name our new son H3H3 because they're both dark and evil. With the addition of H3H3 at a formidable level 16, our team isn't looking half shabby. We pour our candies into Logan Paul again, earning him Razor Leaf and Screech, a deadly combination, and an evolution to top it all off. That wraps up our business here, and we enter the moving city of Motostoke. The city's slogan is, "An industrial city studded with steam-powered marvels of modern engineering." The dark brick motif of the city sets a perfectly industrial aesthetic, moving cogs and gears all around you make you truly feel like you're living in one giant engine. Its name even derives from motor and stoke, like stoking a flame or a train engine. We rendezvous with Sonia, who shows us the lift to the stadium, and once we're there, we're greeted by another familiar face, Leon. He gives us a magic seed, a wonderful item for Logan Paul, and we're on our way again. Arriving at the gym, we're just in time to apply for the opening ceremony, before we're introduced to Bede, but not in name, in action. I absolutely understand what they were trying to do here, and to their credit, it almost works. Bede's aloof hair flip and his edgy demeanor are all clear, but then this. There's no thud, there's no collision, it's just a rotation. This is a huge missed opportunity, especially involving Hop, one of the most animated characters in the whole game, and Bede, a character that we get to see the most development out of. No matter, we hand our endorsements in and get our league uniforms. We have to pick our number, and we choose 52 since it's my favorite number. I'm kidding, we chose the funny number, haha. We head to the Badoo drop-in, and Sonia gives us a little lore. She tells us long ago, Galar was covered by a black storm called the Darkest Day. Dynamax Pokemon ran rampant before they were stopped by a hero bearing a sword and a shield. She lets us go check in, and here is where we're introduced to Team Yell. Now, in Pokemon games, there's a consistent theme of an evil team plotting some kind of takeover, something dastardly to threaten the very landscape of the world. But Team Yell just want to cross hell and high water to simp. Simp for this girl, Marnie. Team Yell is a huge, flailing missed opportunity. I don't have anything against Marnie having fans, but don't give them the team title. You're putting too much pressure on them to be something deeper, and you're raising audience expectations. As you can guess, these battles were no-brainers. We hardly needed the free heal that Hop gave us in between. Marnie enters and apologizes for the trouble they caused, and we turn in for the night. When we awake, we swing an Uber to the stadium, and after a quick chat with Bede that displays more of his uptight demeanor, we do an outfit change into our new Bape Adidas tracksuit. The opening ceremony kicks off, and Chairman Rose is right back where he thinks he belongs, center stage. We learn from the dialogue that these matches are televised, and get to see Rose work the room a little more. The gym leaders are brought on, and this is how you do walk-ons. Each leader, minus the one that we're missing, but that we'll talk about later, does a little something to sell their characters just that much more, right down to the way they walk. Compare Nessa's loose, confident strut to Kabu's firm, almost militant march. Our characters take to the pitch, and... Wait, why'd it cut off? Wait, what? They robbed us of an actual formal ceremony cinematic to instead give us this little scene to demonstrate that Leon and Rose have some prior connection. Worth it, right? We're given access to the flying taxis that don't have animations. It's just a loading screen taxi, basically. God. And we even get a proper send-off from the locals. And just like that, it's off to Route 3. Never mind. We have to fight Hop. A few Razor Leafs, and we're back on our way to Route 3. I spot a Vulpix in the grass, and desperate for a fire type, I claim it for our encounter. We name him Keemstar, because they're both inflammatory. We blast through the battles on this route and come upon Sonia, who informs us that Chairman Rose is an energy mogul, harvesting ore and using it to provide power to the Galar region. Another missed opportunity. Because why not make it so that we can go see the actual plant? This isn't a new idea, by the way, because they did this with a Pokeball factory in X and Y and the Fuego Ironworks in Diamond and Pearl. Both incredible locations that added another layer of character to the region. But there's even a road up to it, and what looks like a clearing that was planned to be used. Sonia gives us an escape rope, and with everything on my mind, I'm tempted to use it to escape this miserable reality. But we make it safely to the aptly named Galar Mine. In the mine, we spot a Drillbur and claim her for our capture. We name her Tanamanjo because they're both rat bastards. Bede patiently awaits us at the end of the tunnel, and my party looks something like this going in. As we talk more to Bede, we can tell that he's someone who finds his identity in whatever position he's in. His repeated boasts of being chosen by the chairman and his need to show us our supposed place belie a frail confidence. But an absolutely slap trainer theme. Follow that base! Solosis is his lead, and I have to say, he caught us off guard with that endeavor during the Screech setup. Toby learns Pluck, and Bede gloats that he's simply sharing the spotlight before leading up with Gothita. She cuts our attack, and Bede checks an invisible watch before finishing with Hatterene. Predicting a confusion, we send out H3 and bind ourselves into Headbutt, finishing things before Hatterene can stack too much damage with Disarming Voice. Bede acts like he's taking it on the chin, taunting us, saying that he'll remember our style to use it to beat us next time. Either way, he's finished his mission to claim wishing stars from the mine, and takes his leave. Route 4, and we dodge the free healing at the end of the tunnel before claiming Electrike as our encounter. A key player for the upcoming I killed it in one Razor Leaf, okay? Okay? And subsequently, we're wrapped up into another sticky situation with another goddamn sheep. And, by the way, missed opportunity. You could have shown Wooloo actually knocking the player down instead of just doing this bullshit Dutch angle thing that they're trying to do here. We're introduced to Milo, and from his build, you can definitely tell he's the gentle giant type, even if he doesn't have a nose. He claims he's been itching to fight the new challengers and eagerly awaits us. All around, giving the impression of what a good first gym leader should be. Encouraging. Hop waits for us at the gates of Turfield to inform us that Sonia went to see the new Banksy piece on the hill. So we join Sonia for a history lesson. The piece on the hill is thousands of years old and depicts a giant creature in front of what appears to be a Dynamax storm. Sonia ponders on it all before thanking us for our time with a Starlight Rare Milo and 2 useless pieces of shit. And somehow, Hop pulled a Gary Out Classic and speed ran the gym while we were busy. The gyms in Sword and Shield have been redone in that the puzzles that are just normally there have been rebranded as gym missions. Content. And for this one, we have to guide a group of Wooloo through several checkpoints while battling trainers and Yamper that are set up as obstacles. The whole thing is relatively handholdy, but does an okay job at letting players know what to expect for gyms ahead. At the end of the challenge, Toby celebrates by evolving into a Corvisquire, just in time for the battle with Milo. Going in, we slap a sharp beak on Toby and outfit the rest of our party with whatever we can. Looking ahead, none of Milo's Pokemon had status moves, but I couldn't take any chances. We dab on the crowd and hit the pitch. The walk-on here is calm. It lacks the flourish of the opening ceremony. I mean, Milo is at home. He's around his adoring public. He should be at least a little more confident. I mean, the whole stadium is rooting for him. He tells you to be ready for his Dynamax, and the battle kicks off. And my god, the soundtrack for gym leaders. Ooh. It's too bad I didn't get to enjoy more of it, since despite being 2 levels under, Toby swept with a single Hone Claws Max Airstream setup. This challenge is looking good. Milo congratulates us on a job well done, and badge in hand, we get on our way to Hulbury. Route 5, and apart from being greeted by a double battle, the real action here was H3 evolving into Linoon, finding the move Attract, and our encounter for this route. This Drifloon, this little health spawn, killed Gabby Hanna and nearly sent H3 to Content ID Hell 2, but we pulled off the clutch capture and named him after a being with a similar power, David Dobrik. We abandoned the Gift Toxel and happen on Team Yell, who are trying to steal a man's bike. Diabolical. It's a quick rinse and we're rewarded with our Rotom bike. Here we get to see the other half of the wild area and nothing particularly sticks out there either. The desert adds a little more of a wild feel, I guess, but it gets ruined when you see the pine trees sprinkled across the landscape. I mean, hop again, and god damn, this game loves to give you a heads up before you step up to get your ass beat. He opens with Wooloo, which doesn't give us any trouble, but Corvisquire was an unexpected addition. H3 holds him off, and Logan Paul comes back to take out Drizzile. And just like that, we land in Hulbury, the city of the second gym badge. Hulbury welcomes you with its still waters and rolling streets that pour into spacious ports. The name may be a reference to Kingston on Hull in England. We use the move tutor to get rid of what we can of David Dobrik's moves by adding Minimize, and exit to be greeted by Chairman Rose chasing fans? I guess. The woman with him, his assistant, keeps with the trend of garden names, being named Oleana after Oleander, the poisonous garden plant. Bede attempts to console Rose, and Rose literally gives him the, "Who are you? "Oh yeah, you!" treatment. But Bede brushes it off and leaves to continue his mission of collecting wishing stars. Rose offers us a date if we beat the gym, and Oleana lets us know to meet at the only restaurant within 80 kilometers. We stun on everyone with our bike skills before meeting with Nessa by the lighthouse, and okay, good lord, that water looks genuinely gorgeous. It's placid, and the way it bleeds into the horizon inspires the idea of what could lie beyond. Nessa lets us know that we're earning a bit of a name for ourselves before giving us her Snapchat username and telling us to meet her at the gym. We buy a useful wax incense at the market and find an even more useful shell bell before we confront the gym. The mission for this gym is to solve the water pipe puzzle while not being distracted by all the traps with E-boy hair. And it's a breeze. Or should I say, a flush. And we dab on the audience one more time before hitting the field. Again, no showboating from Nessa, just kind of robotically walking to the center to meet us before spouting some stock lines about, oh, she's gonna beat us. Ooh. They could have given her so much more attitude to match that colorful appearance. I mean, all the jewelry and accessories a character wears are not a substitute for character itself. By this point, Logan Paul was also a few levels ahead from the trainer battles, so the whole thing was one big razor leaf sweep. Please don't flood us, Nessa. There's children in the stadium. We get a few levels, Drillberg gets Sandstorm, and Nessa congratulates us on a job well done. Oleana meets us outside the gym to give us Rose's burner phone number and to remind us to not keep him waiting. We hit up Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, and Sonia's here to join us. Wait, there's no real animals in Pokemon. What's the food made out of? Oh my god. We learn from the dialogue that Rose credits some of his success to Professor Magnolia. Quote, she was the one who figured out how to unleash the power of wishing stars and use that power to Dynamax Pokemon. She also developed a power spot detector for Rose. Rose suggests to Sonia to explore the vault in Hammerlock, and Oleana promises to arrange an appointment for her. She ushers Rose out before we can even eat our napkins, and Hop lets us know about a ruckus in Galar Mine number 2. That's the name. They really fell off with those, and from that, we're off. At the mouth of the mine, we're met with Bede, who informs us that this time he needs to crush us, like the strong crush the weak so that they don't suffer. Solosis is on point again, and this time it's a Psyshock that catches me by surprise. I mean, we managed to do work and get under Bede's skin as Gothita comes out to face another Razor Leaf. Psyshock hits again, but not nearly as hard, and we're able to put Gothita in her place. Hatena comes out, and Bede turns on Cheat Engine to use Psybeam. Hatena falls to an Overgrow boosted Razor Leaf, and Bede actually congratulates us on cornering him. Seems a little out of character. We bring Toby out, but a confusion, well, confused us. We're forced to draw back into H3, and we check the next confusion. Headbutt time, but no flinch as Ponyta comes back with Fairy Wind. It's threatening, but not enough to scare H3 from another headbutt to finish things. Bede pulls another tough guy act, excusing his loss to the fact that he faced a challenger he thought was objectively bad, not one that lacked skill. Good compliment, I guess. He gives us his holographic Charizard as a consolation prize and leaves us from there. After this, we get our encounter, a Wimpod. A promising candidate since Golisopod checks even Pokemon in Leon's party. Too bad we triggered its emergency exit. Lost it. Fuck. Okay, I'll admit, I was salted. I was about to go into the fire gym with not a single water type, and my strongest Pokemon was weak to both of his aces dual types. This promised to be the first gym where the limitations of this challenge were about to hit me with their effects. Going through the mine, Team Yell sent their finest Australian correspondents to steal my Joy-Con battery and battle me. Literally, this subplot is they just want to battle. They want to battle a League trainer. The whole thing is dastardly easy, but it does give us stockpile for David Dobrik, a move that will be crucial later on. Kabu gives Team Yell a grounding and sends them to bed without Fortnite, then lets us know he'll be eagerly awaiting our challenge. In retrospect, I should have listened to Hop when he said that a lot of challengers struggle with Kabu. We find ourselves our own Hatena in the following route and named her Celery, because I was doing this in one continuous run that I started late at night. I was 5 hours in at this point, and I was starting to feel the burn. We make it back to Motostoke and hit the wild area before the gym so we can claim our 2 wild area encounters. I refused to do the grass encounter because I knew the dens were the right call this time. It was a Ghastly and a Hoot Hoot. So we caught the Ghastly and named it Sea Nanners because... is he still around? I hope. But the Hoot we left to suffer endlessly. Coming back to Motostoke, there's a brief battle with Marnie before we turn in for the night, but it's nothing terribly threatening. I am starting to feel the trainer levels catch up to me. We wake up bright and early to face what promised to be our hardest challenge yet. Kabu's mission is to earn points for catching and defeating wild Pokemon in double battles with trainers that are either there to hinder or help you. It's an interesting dynamic that I don't recall actually seeing in any other Pokemon gym. So, points to Game Freak for keeping this interesting, I guess. We chug our way through battles until we earn enough points to face Kabu. We do what we can to set up our team. I knew he'd lead with Ninetales that would try and get the Will-O-Wisp instantly, so I thought I'd lead with Keemstar to buy me whatever time I could. Once we're feeling ready, duty calls, and we hit the stage. In keeping with the trend of this gym, this walk-on is a little different from all the rest. I don't know who was in charge of this one, but they shaped up. The characterization here is subtle, but that's what makes it more powerful. They gave us this moment with Kabu checking his own heartbeat before the match begins. He walks us on himself under raucous applause while ads with his likeness flash in the background. From his little jog to his posture, he's in charge, like a gym leader should be. This gym felt even more intimidating because it finally gave me that feeling of being in someone else's house. This was Kabu's element, and I was trespassing. It's time for battle. Kabu gives us one final glare to let us know it's really on, and Ninetales takes the field. It has priority with Quick Attack, but I successfully slide into her Instagram DMs with an Attract Confuse Ray combo. Hard pivot into H3 and I have to reset the Attract. Thankfully, she hit herself in confusion not just once, but twice! A headbutt lands, and Ninetales is immobilized once, then flinches the next turn, and just like that, we are one up on Kabu. Arcanine comes in, and that's a hard nerf to my physical H3. We come back to Keemstar, and successfully predicting a Will-O-Wisp, but not predicting the critical hit that sent Keemstar to content ID hell. Rest in peace, soldier. H3 comes in to avenge Keem at full attack, even successfully dodging the Will-O-Wisp setup and landing another clutch flinch. Arcanine is down, and things are looking up for us. That is, until his ace, Scentiscorch, takes the field. There's no use fighting it. The only question was, what move, and what did I have that could take that hit, if anything? There's a burning glint in Kabu's eyes as he launches his Pokeball to the sky, and Scentiscorch transforms to its full form. We try and get another headbutt flinch, but it's too late. Max Flutterby cancels H3. Tanamonjo comes out and lands the Attract, but even that's not enough, and she suffers the same fate as her teammates before. At this point, I was starting to sweat. Were we really about to wipe? And even if we didn't, we've lost half of our team by the end of this. But no time to think. We Dynamax Toby, who barely lives a G-Max Centiferno to get off 2 max airstreams we needed. You can see me pause on the XP screen because I didn't think it was real. But we were doing it. We overcame the first hurdle that the game had to offer. But at what cost? We dump our brave lost souls to Susan's toy box and grab the only other friend we have, Celery. There's this nice send-off we get where the first 3 gym leaders give us a Survey Corps style motivational speech, and we rendezvous with Bede, who challenges Hop to 1v1 ops on Dust 2. We grab our den encounter, a Dwebble that we name Jake Paul because they both live under a rock. At the gates of Hammerlock, Bede informs us that Hop has suffered a crushing defeat, something that no doubt blasted Hop's ego but inflated Bede's. He brushes us off, and we follow him up the steps to our next destination. The nearly obsidian black bricks of Hammerlock add to the stoic medieval feeling of this city. It's shaped like a dragon. The platforms on the main building are the wings, etc., etc. And even though it holds the fewest shops in all of Galar, it attempts to compensate with the atmosphere it builds. Atmosphere that gets destroyed when you realize you can't explore half of those cool-looking towers or buildings. But shut up! We eavesdrop a meeting between Bede and the chairman. Bede asks the chairman if, quote, he gathers all the wishing stars, will that solve the problem that's been bothering you? To which Rose replies that it's for the future of the whole Galar region, and that he'll need a strong trainer to enforce his goal. Rose invites us to the stadium and shares his propaganda with us before sending us on our way. We grab a letter from a little girl and a new pair of Ray-Bans before we make it to the vault to meet Raihan. Raihan is a cold-blooded, manipulative sociopath who wants nothing more than to be the god of this world. Hammerlock's gym leader, and he shows us into the vault and also gives us his Discord username.
This is a popular manipulation tactic to make us feel special to him, another way to keep us under his thumb of control.
We make sure sure not to let him look up my skirt as we make our way to the vault. Sonia's here to give us a walkthrough of the fine art. The tapestries shatter the idea of a single hero and display a sword and a shield stopping the darkest day, alongside two boys. Sonia tries to compute the new information. We meet again with Raihan, subtly adjusts his posture, and tells us to go to Route 6. However, Team EL blocks our way because a little one is sleeping. This team is so evil. All jokes aside, the levels are finally catching up, and even surpassing me. Logan Paul's even underleveled. We managed to scrape through these battles, but we lost Jake Paul and Toby before Celery came in to clutch it out. And at the end, we get to talk to Hop about his battle with Bede. The camera work in this exchange is strangely poignant. Hop's face is hidden as he talks about how much the battle with Bede scarred him. He said that I was dragging Lee's good name through the mud, and I just can't get those words out of my head. We're able to catch a glimpse of Hop's face as he turns away, and it's less than satisfied. Opal gives us her name in Morse code because she's a boomer, and then leaves us to do our business. Yeah, wasted opportunity. Look, give Opal more motive to do something like this. Don't just make her magic lady that comes out of nowhere, or if you're going to do it, at least do it with a little finesse. We bring Sea Nanners to our party, and a close battle with a Clefable gives us enough EXP to evolve our David Dobrik into a thick balloon. Unfortunately, immediately after, Celery, our check to be his upcoming gym, died in a double battle. However, we redeem ourselves with our wild encounter, a hippopotas that costs us Sea Nanners, and that we name Rice Gum, because they're both dry as fuck. And to add some more sunshine, our boy Logan Paul finally evolves into a Rillaboom and learned the move Drum Beating. I could feel the pressure mounting, but no time to waste, and we push ahead to Stawon's side. Greeted by 3 giant Diglett effigies, Stawon's side is charmingly out of place. It reminds me of Lentimos Town in Unova, scorched, almost volcanic in nature. It also helps that the street lamps here are modeled after a Unova regional threat, Chandelure. The architecture feels very indigenous in nature. I could imagine this town having some lore about being built on an original settlement of Galar, having it be a sort of Mesopotamia to the region, if that lore existed, and instead, it's just got a mural. What even is this? Anyways, it looks like a finger painting. Oh yeah, ask me what fossil I picked, guys. It's good for the algorithm. And we face Hop once more with minimal struggle. Opal surprises us again with 3 months of Bea's premium Snapchat and sends us off once more. But I needed to push a little further ahead to Glimwood Tangle. We needed to round out our team for emergencies, and that came in the form of a friendly little impidimp that we lovingly name James Charles, because makeup on Fleet Point. We even out our movesets a little bit before embarking to face Bea's gym. The mission here is reminiscent of old school pinball machines and is strangely apropos to the setting. Before we know it, we're face to face with Bea. Bea's characterization isn't entirely wasted. The bow and the pose as she throws her Pokeball are very nice touches. But her team... Alright, let's just cut to the chase. David Dobrik made this team suffer by setting up on Hitmontop that I saw only had fighting and normal type moves. Using a minimized stockpile strategy, we were able to successfully stall everything. I mean, even Machamp's Gigantamax. And once our health was too low, we just pivoted to Rillaboom and took it out with a few drum beatings, earning us our 4th gym badge. Bea, however, is a gracious loser and maintains a solemn, bowed head, a very traditional show of respect. To celebrate, James Charles decided to evolve into Morgrim and learned False Surrender for his damaging move. Leaving the gym, we meet with Sonia before a crash at the mural demands our attention. The source of the noise is none other than Bede, desecrating the mural because he thinks there's wishing stars behind it. Okay. Borrowing Rose's Caparaja, his plan is to unearth a supposed supply of wishing stars that lies behind the mural. It all just seems so forced. I mean, Bede, right now, doesn't strike me as a character who would take a drastic measure like this. Not at this stage in his progression. He was well on his way to conquer the Pokémon League, so why would he jeopardize it with grandstanding? I would think that if he were to do something underhanded, he would be the type to be more subtle about it. He pulls us into a battle and leads with his newly evolved Duosion. It checks my Screech with a Reflect, so I just double down on Screech and take a Psyshock as best as I can. Drum Beating takes it out, and Hatterene follows. is breaking through my attract to hit a Psybeam. I manage to stall it out until I get my overgrow, and once his team's reflect falls, Logan Paul sweeps the rest. Oleana and Rose ambush us, and Rose mourns Bede's backstory. He found the orphan Bede and sent him to trainer school, but is disappointed at Bede's lack of Galar patriotism. He rescinds Bede's league rights and escorts him back to Hammerlock. Once they leave, the mural unexpectedly falls into pre-rendered chunks, and Sonia becomes Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds as she draws from the unearthed ruins what we already knew. The sword and shield were Pokemon, but extra points to her for asking about why the ruins are being hidden. But then again, missed opportunity because we'll never know. We can't explore the ruins, even though they have apparent depth. So we just press on to Glimwood Tangle. I think I like this area and its companion town of Balanley because they both feel like the slumbering Weld feels. They have unique atmospheric touches to build the environment around you and make you feel like you're really in a new place in the game that you're playing. The name even breathes mystique, being a mix of ballon, a ballet term derived from the French word for balloon, and lay, a British town suffix for a wood clearing. The town is brought to life by the gentle glimmers in the air that feel like fireflies. They dance and guide you through its burrows. We stop to deliver the letter, and oh my god, Mr. Robot plot twist, she was a ghost! Ghost is haunting my lungs. The old man gives us the choice scarf, a critical item to our late game. And the old lady gives us Hex, a move that completes David Dobrik's moveset. All of a sudden, our team's looking a little scary again. But first it's time for our wild area encounter, and I couldn't hold it any longer. I needed a water type, so I caved and caught a Timple. We name her Weedle, because Weedle Tweeneedle is the best female Poketuber, prove me wrong. Opal greets us at her gym and lets us know that our mission will be in the form of battles with built-in quizzes. The questions vary from general type knowledge to offbeat personal questions and random trivia. But even though the pressure is on, we grabbed our thinking cap and pushed through to the end. In fact, Rice Gum was so hyped, he evolved into Hippowdon, just for you and me. Opal's team is certainly intimidating, but it could be worse. Imagine Serene Grace Togekiss. Opal's walk-on is, surprisingly, one of the better done ones. She doesn't actually walk on. Instead, true to her mystic nature, she stands, solitary, in the middle of the stadium, waiting for you. In that moment, she is confident, poised, and you're almost wrapped into wondering what could be on this woman's mind. This opportunity was not missed. It was thoroughly seized. So she leads with Galarian Weezing, a fairy poison type. David Dobrik takes full advantage of that and lights it into a burning fireball. We stockpile up 3 times, only to be faced with our first question, which we pass with flying colors and get even more defense buffs. After a few minimizes, we're all the way buffed up and ready to let loose with a deadly Hex. Mawile's up next, and we're presented with another question. Flattery is key, boys. And we earn some attack buffs. Mawile's an Oko off of a boosted Hex, and her biggest threat enters. Togekiss hits hard with Ancient Power, but we activate our weakness policy, Citrus Berry, and burst through with a Will-O-Wisp. It gets more Ancient Power buffs, but not before falling to 2 of our Hexes. Alcremie posed a threat to me. Do I sacrifice my buffs to a safe switch in, or do we have faith in David? In the heat of the moment, we went dummy big and stalled Opal's G-Max for its first turn. I have to mention, I love how she falls a little bit when her Pokeball grows. That was a lovely touch. Definitely a way to capitalize on Opal's age, and a fun way to break her otherwise unflappable demeanor. My worries washed away when I saw how much G-Max Finale did, and 2 Max Phantasms were enough to win us the fight. Opal concludes by telling us we failed her secret audition for Gym Leader, but nonetheless congratulates us. Maybe it's the camera angle, but her last words seemed so much more heavy. Of course it's not good to neglect your elders, but old folk like me should also know when it's time to step out of the spotlight. Underneath it all, Opal's character is truly tragic. Someone who wants to bring so much life because she knows she only has so much of it left. Opal offers us a lift to Hammerlock. I appreciate that she calls the city that's so industrial compared to her own dusty. We encounter Bede, who broods over how far he's fallen before he catches the eye of Opal. She remarks that Bede's pink is sincere and straightforward, and yet so twisted and misguided. They share this utterly delightful interaction that takes the cake for my favorite in the whole game. Opal's genuine interest brings out her most eccentric side, while Bede is left to suffer being gawked at. Opal promises to take Bede in to help him out, as long as he's willing to put in the same hard work. Bede, flattered that someone feels that he's skilled enough to be tested, quickly reassumes his confident demeanor, and they shoo me off to Sir Chester while they go their own way. We detour to the wild area for our next den encounter, and much to our surprise, it's a dino. We bag the sword-exclusive dragon type and name it Tion, because I just like Tion. He's a cool guy. Check out his channel. Sonia meets us outside of Hammerlock Station, and another explosion rattles the stadium. Sonia's power spot detector goes off, and she posits that it's Rose's power plant beneath the city. Leon shows up and takes Sonia off to go save the day, while Hop invites us to a battle on Route 7. Weedle was so excited for Hop's misery that she chose to evolve into Palpitoad. He gives us a free heal and goes on his way, but not before declaring that we'll have a rematch after we both earn our Sir Chester badges. We redeem our encounter for this route in the form of a Galvantula that we name Jeffree Star, because they both know how to spin a web. Psych, you thought? We naming it Jeffrey for Young Thug, baby! Route 8 is thoroughly uneventful, and we burn our encounter on a random poniard. We're reminded how far north we've truly come, as on the other side of the tunnel, transformed terrain, ice-capped trees, and frosted blades of grass welcome us to the snow-laden roads of Sir Chester. Sir Chester is based on the city of Bath in the UK, a fact that can be gleaned from its centerpiece, a Roman-built bath, and its winding Georgian architecture. With cold, earthy tones that complement the overcast weather, you'd expect an Ice-type leader, and if we were playing Shield, you would be correct. Sword and Shield feature mirror gym leaders. In Sword, we have Bea and Gordy, while Shield gets the guy from Hollywood Undead and Ice Milf. Hop meets us at the stadium and announces he's not only spent all his money on drugs, but that he's fallen to Gordy. He gives us Gordy's Finsta username, and we embark on our challenge. In this one, you have to use the vibrations of the Switch's Joy-Cons to navigate floors with pitfall traps while battling trainers along the way. Cooling concept. Horribly frustrating in practice, but nonetheless, good on Game Freak for shaking it up again. Gordy's characterization comes in the form of him being this disembodied voice egging us on along the challenge. It feels awkward. It feels like they tried to keep us from having interaction with the gym leader in the city so that they didn't have to map custom cutscenes and animations. I don't know, just say. This in mind, we dab on the haters and take the pitch once again. I don't feel anything from Gordy's walk-on. He has no spring to his step, nothing unique in his posturing, and once again, I'm back to feeling like I'm sharing the stage with a trainer NPC, not a gym leader. He flashes us some empty line about how he's gonna crush us, but let me spoil it for you. Logan Paul, Ricegum, and David Dobrik wash this team like cafeteria floors. Gordy's Shuckle posed more of a threat than even his G-Max Colossal, purely based off of it knowing Rock Tomb. We're given some god-awful handshake and leave the gym, badge in hand, but hardly satisfied. Sonia greets us as we exit the stadium, and she doesn't even mention Gordy by name in her dialogue. He's simply that gym leader. Instead, Sonia invites us to the local McDonald's, and we oblige because we just happen to be drunk enough to want a spicy McChicken. And, in the most ham-fisted plot point yet, notice how I said yet. Holy shit. There's so much more to this. Sonia finds the missing 5th tapestry just hanging as a decoration. Why not have us find it somewhere that makes just a little more sense? Maybe Raihan contacts us and tells us that he found some old junk to sort through in the vault that might help us, and then we find it there. Or better yet, have us quest to the overworld for it. Like, have some hiker in the restaurant mention he heard something about treasure in the ruins that recently got blown open. I mean, why isn't anyone else in the region talking about these things happening? The townspeople will nut at the first mention of something in the league or you beating a leader, but they're so one-dimensional. They don't seem to care about anything happening in the place they call home. Granted, I don't expect them to have deep paragraphs, but they don't need to. They just need some different flavor text for different stages in the game, like we've seen in plenty of other Pokemon titles before. We share a meal and Sonia makes me pay with half of my battery life, while we talk to her about our experience in the Slumbering Weld. We go to investigate the hero's bath. The raw testosterone in the air lights a fire under Hop, and we have no choice but to fight. Despite the loss, Hop is still in high spirits and charges forth to Spikemuth, while Sonia leaves to continue her investigation, but not before observing that Hop seems to have stepped out of that slump he was in. We head to Route 9, where Weedle achieves her final queenly form of Seismitoad. We have another pointless spat with Team Yell, and the same social distancing hero rewards us with the premium version of Pirate Perfection for Payday 2, which includes the walk-through water hack for our bicycle. Further south, and we have our encounter for the route, a Toxapex. It's an easy choice. We need a defensive wall and a check to fairy types. We catch him and name him after the right opinion, because just like James, he has a heart outside, but what a cute little purple inside, looky.
Some people call me James, but to you, it's Daddy.
A little further, and a trainer battle brings James Charles to his final form of Grimmsnarl, and we arrive at Spikemuth. Or rather, at the gates of where plenty of trainers have been locked out and stalled at this leg of their challenge. This feels like some familiar handiwork. Marnie offers us an in if we can defeat her in battle, so we oblige. She promises a rematch in the Champion Cup, but doesn't promise that I'll ever have a full battery in my Joy-Cons. Spikemuth's edgy name is a pretty direct homage to the state of the town. When we arrive, light peeks through the pitch-black tarp that covers most of the city, keeping it largely plunged in a cover of night. The city breathes a grungy neon punk vibe, and it's clear that this is Marnie's hometown. Grinding through the yell grunts, some of them have actually delightful animations. These little moments with them jumping out of the window or backflipping in the streets is actually perfect world building. They're not afraid to make a mess because they own the city. You're their guest, and this is their idea of a good time. Marnie scolds Team Yell and ushers us to Pier's stage, where the show is about to begin. Missed opportunity! Why on earth is there Foley for the mic squeals, the footsteps, everything, but they couldn't make some kind of music for this? In black and white, Roxy had a voice in the overworld for her gym. Why can't we do something simple like that here? Game Freak, you took a character whose identity centers around music and their voice and made them mute. Piers had so much potential. Just add some crooning vocals, make it harsh and wild, and give me something to get wrapped up in that isn't dead fucking air. Piers views himself as an abdicated gym leader. He's a ghost of the duty. This is supported by him brazenly using the leader's podium as a stage and the battlefield as a mosh pit. It's a simple stage, no Dynamaxing. Piers is traditional. This will be a battle of raw skill. Just when you thought Piers was losing you, he wraps you right back at— oh yeah, no voice. Oh yeah. But he has this custom theme that fucking slaps! So looking ahead, even though I knew Piers would lead with Scrafty, I accidentally left Grimmsnarl in the lead. Tro lays down the Toxic Spikes net. From there, Grimmsnarl builds its buffs until it made quick and easy work of the rest of Piers' party. While the fight wasn't too tough, setup moves sure helped, and we'll need them, as the levels are once again starting to gain on us. Piers and Marnie have an exchange where they argue about who will take over as the Spikemuth gym leader, and agree to settle it at the Pokémon League. No sooner are we on our way out than another tremor hits. Leon awaits us outside. He lets us know that it's just the enemy AC-130 and that he'll go kill the MVP before they can drop the tactical nuke.
Remember, National Dex.
And that we should focus on our gym battle. This is one of the most egregiously missed opportunities in the whole game, because despite this crowd and the buildup, we go through the tunnel and there's no sign of conflict. Hop tells us all about this rampaging Dynamaxed Pokemon, but our surrounding area looks more like a Minecraft alpha build. And what is this photo? This isn't a joke, by the way. This is literally in the final release version of the game. This photo has no personality. Leon's just doing a default pose in front of a lifeless Berserker. Make this photo look more like live footage. I get it, it's supposed to be a show of how strong Leon is, and how quickly he can finish a situation, but not even TMZ would move this fast for a photo shoot. We rendezvous in Hammerlock, and Sonia informs us that these red lights are popping up everywhere, allowing Pokemon to Dynamax without power spots. But we feel no imminent fear, because we didn't see the actual fucking storm! In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, your enemy, Cyrus, leader of Team Galactic, summons Dialga or Palkia, depending on your version, and using their power, brings his own type of storm upon the Sinnoh region. This scene works because we get to see the sky above all of these places that we've just spent all this time building memories in, turn into a flowing celestial murk, shifting and churning, much like the feeling you hold in your stomach at that very moment. Contrast that to here, and all we have are secondhand NPC reactions and a shitty Twitter photo. There's no love in these plots. It's not these almost romantic villains that play with us, constantly reminding us of our position as peons and giving the fight motivation. Instead, it's corporation bad, which isn't intrinsically a bad plot. It's how they tell it, and especially this close to what should be the climax of the game. In fact, many of the titles reach their climax before you even get your 8th badge. Professor Magnolia appears and reveals that she's been summoned by the chairman. Rose has delegated research on this phenomenon to Oleana, and he's currently preoccupied with worries about the future of Galar's energy, apparently. We all go our separate ways, and I go grab our wild area encounter. Metapod, I quit! Raihan's gym takes place in the vault.
Isolation. He stands between us and our only allies. Classic sociopathic behavior. Constantly looking for ways to dominate his victim.
No flash, no glamour. Our mission is simply get through these 3 double battles and then face Raihan in the same format. Raihan reveals this is because we are one of 10 or so remaining trainers, and justifies this humble format by saying it's a way to show off the kind of synergy that our team really has.
Don't listen to him. He's manipulating us to make us feel special. It's a disarming technique. Meanwhile, he self-aggrandizes by calling himself the Great Raihan.
It's a relatively quick 3 rounds, and since Raihan is an engineer main, he lays a teleporter for us to the stadium. We dab on the haters and hit the battlefield. Raihan's walk-on is, unfortunately, nothing special. True, he has a little more swagger to his walk, and loves to flash that pretty boy smile to tease us, but I don't feel like I'm in Raihan's world, which is what I would expect from someone who's so clearly into himself and his power struggle with his rival. He lets us know he'll be playing with the weather, and looking ahead at his team, it's definitely threatening to mine, particularly Duraliudon and Sandaconda with Glare. Logan and James are on point as Raihan leads Gigalith and Flygon, a Sandstorm combo. Flygon's up first with Breaking Strike to start chipping at my physical attacking team, but we blast Gigalith with Drum Beating and Flygon goes down to James's Spirit Break. Sandaconda is out and I'm feeling the pressure now. The next moves matter more than ever. The moment Gigalith goes down, Duraliudon comes out and pops its G-Max, and from there it's a coin flip every move. Rice Gum comes out, and Logan Paul gets hit with a Glare Body Press double team. We pivot to David Dobrik to pop the Earthquake, and manage to turn Gigalith to Pebbles, but at the cost of Rice Gum catching a Glare. Duraliudon comes out, and it surpasses me by 2 levels. It's now or never. We Dynamax Rice Gum and line up David Dobrik with the Will-O-Wisp to cut the Duraliudon's attack. G-Max depletion is threatening, especially in this challenge, but the damage it lands is negligible, and Will-O-Wisp connects successfully, along with Max Quake. Unfortunately, I forgot about Max Rockfall, and thank Arceus, David Dobrik was packing that Agua Berry. We cop our Unburden boost and take care of the Sandaconda, but Rice Gum is paralyzed. Predicting another Rockfall, we pivot to James Charles, and once the next Max Quake connects, it's GG.
Look at the way he sulks. His power fantasy crumbling before him, and all he can do is cope with more self-love.
As we exit the stadium, we're met with Professor Magnolia and Sonia, who acknowledge that we don't truly know how to control Dynamaxing, or what it even is at the bottom of it all. She gives Sonia a new Gucci coat, they leave, and we take our last wild area encounter of the whole run. It's fucking Sea-Nanners! I don't want to play Trouble in Terrace Town. So we depart from the Hammerlock Station for Wyndon, and I hope that the next time I see Raihan is from behind reinforced steel bars. We land at Route 10. This just doesn't feel right. It is a sorry placeholder for Victory Road. Victory Road has always felt treacherous, like it was a real proving ground for elite trainers, and it was integrated directly into the Pokémon League. Instead, we have Brr, Coldplay stuff, Brr. I'll save you the time, but we were struggling on some of these battles. We're starting to see more regional threats, and I don't know how long our current levels are going to cut it. Coming over the hill, we make it to the gates of Wyndon. Impressive, and the winding city streets definitely give me Lumio's city vibes. No time to waste as we blast straight to the league for our semifinals match. Dab on the haters. It's none other than Marnie, and even if she might not look threatening, her team absolutely is. With plenty of priority and status moves, it could unwind me fast. I lead with Logan Paul to brute force out the Liepard before it can build any nasty plots. Toxicroak comes out, and since we know it has Toxic, we hit it with a taunt. Unfortunately, we're outplayed, and it lands a Venoshock. A pivot pivot to Rice Gum and we tank the Sucker Punch to hit an Earthquake. Scraffy's next, and this thing packing swagger is a sleeping threat. We pivot to Tro, our defensive tank, and start setting up our Toxic Spikes even through swagger. It's a recover bunker stall, but we still manage to inch it out and claim the win with a liquidation. More Pekko's up, and it's time to pivot back to Rice Gum, who brings the Sandstorm chip damage while safely switching into a Torment. It undergoes a form change, but Bite does pitiful damage as Earthquake takes care of the great value Pikachu. It's time. Her biggest threat, Grimmsnarl. Toxic does its work. Meanwhile, time ticks on our end of the battlefield. Rice Gum has to switch out, and Logan Paul is happy to oblige. G-Max Grimmsnarl and G-Snooze hit, but Logan takes it like a champion, surviving with just a sliver of health. Rice Gum comes back to tank the next one, and it's Max Starfall. Again, just a bite of health left. But don't you see what I'm doing? It's all calculated. So Tro can stall the last turn that we baited to a Max Starfall. And Grimmsnarl is back on even footing. It tempts us with a Torment, but thankfully we hit our win button and Max Geyser secures us our place in the finals match. Hop comes to congratulate us and makes quick work of his own match. Hop's walk-on is simple, but at least feels a little poignant. We watch him smack some sense into himself, and just like that, the match is on. Logan Paul is on point against Double, who's countering my Screech with Cotton Guard. I taunt him and bring out the Screech one more time before catching a few body slams and finishing it with a drum beating and Rocky Helmet combo. Corviknight is up. Again, one of the hardest checks I've had to face with my largely physical team. David Dobrik is out and the plan is simple. Will-O-Wisp lands and we start stacking buffs before being hit with swagger. We've got it on the ropes with Hex before Full Restore lands, and it's crunch time all over again. Will-O-Wisp reconnects, and we're pushed too far to the edge. It's time for Tro. Toxic Spikes go up, and the Poisonous Bunker stalls through Drill Pecks, a Swagger, and more to get both layers up. Corviknight is feeling the heat, literally, and after a few more recovers, Liquidation finally grounds it. Snorlax is next, but Poison is quick to do its work. I stay in to test the waters, and Liquidation does a sizable chunk. But then I remembered about high horsepower. No matter. We recover Stall It until Pincurchin comes out. The shocking Sea Urchin is a little powerhouse in disguise, so we bait it with Baneful Bunker, but it predicts, going for the curse. Rice Gum comes in to put this thing to bed until the poison damage finally claims it. Intellion's last. It feels like deja vu, except this time, Logan Paul is in no place to take a hit. So it's time for Tro. Now, since we know this Intellion's moveset, we can sequentially bait it. First, Tro takes the Max Geyser. Next, Tian takes the Max Quake coming off of Mudshot. And finally, Rice Gum comes in to take the Max Hailstorm. Just barely, however. Intellion's back to normal, and it's into James Charles we come. But a critical hit threatens our plan. In Fight or Flight, we panic Dynamax, keeping us alive on 8 health. And just like that, our closest match with Hop comes to a close. Hop feels the sting, but all around he is an incredible sport. He thanks us for giving him a heroic adventure. And it's time for the post-commentary with Leon. He promises us dinner, and after a brief interview with TMZ TLC HPV, we resume hours later, waiting for Leon. Pierce finds us and informs us that Leon had urgent business at Rose Tower. Curious, we summon up Team Yo, of all people, and lead the charge. Oleana stops us outside the hotel and tells us to access Rose Tower, we need a key that she gave the lead character from Deus Ex.
What a shame. He was a good man. What a rotten way to die.
We play hide and seek with the townspeople for a little bit, and once Earthquake PP starts to run low, I start to realize the threat that Steel types pose to me on this run, especially with this party. We follow the Grunt to the station and get this flimsy Pierce cutscene that might just feel like a musical number to some of you, except there's no music! He's just there. Help him! Somehow, in all of this chaos, we get the monorail key and we're brought to the foot of Rose Tower. This futuristic, imposing work of modern architecture cuts into the sky, demanding attention, much like Rose's character. We're given a send-off by Piers and Marnie as we enter the lobby that feels, in a word, opulent. Maybe it's the blinding lights or the glass coffin of flowers on the causeway, but it feels a little bit like we could be in a villain's lair. You know, if it wasn't also the fucking battle tower in the end of the game, ruining all the illusion and suspension of disbelief. God! Fucking... Our goal is to double battle our way to the top of the tower, while Hop dispenses enough free healing to fix my lumbago. The top of the tower is a glass battle dome, 1,000 feet above Earth, with Oleana standing in our way. We learn that the grunts that we faced on our way up were her special force that she hired to deal with intruders like us. And we get to see some of the most savage characterization in the game. Throughout the whole story, Oleana has always been calm and collected. To players, this moment is properly jarring, and if the world had been built with enough tension around it, this transformation would be even scarier. Imagine how you would feel seeing this face knowing that Galar's being torn apart around you if you can see the actual storm clouds in the distance versus just night. Plus, Oleana doesn't even maintain this savage posture in battle. She resumes her cold, natural pose, like she didn't just lose it in front of us. Oleana leads with Frostless that cripples us quickly with Will-O-Wisp. It tries to live with Double Team, but a few drum beatings and it's time for Salazzle to come out. I thought this was a nice touch to give her some poison types, reminding us that her name is rooted in a poisonous plant. Tro comes in to check her and gets both spike layers up before Sarina comes out. She TikTok dances for Logan Paul and wins his heart. And we have no choice but to pivot to Tian to take a hit. David Dobrik is out and takes care of Sarina, but Milotic is terrifying. We stall out its poison. Then her ace comes out. There's a moment of pensiveness as Oleana Dynamaxes. Is everything that's happening finally catching up to her? Look at her face. We counterpick the Dynamax, and while Max Quake is threatening, we stall it out enough for us to return to an even playing field. Ricegum comes in, and from there, it's GG. Oleana's post-loss posture is perfect. She's powerless but to let us go, calling herself a hopeless woman, and brooding at how everything she did was all for someone who didn't truly appreciate her. This next scene is meant to be the pivotal moment. It's where we learn about Rose's true motivations in researching Dynamax, and how he feels he needs a powerful right-hand figure to further reach the people of the Galar region. The scene is underscored by still, hand-drawn images, and it's silent. There's no voice, there's not even music. This was such a huge, wasted opportunity. You know what? For argument's sake, let me show you what this scene would look like with actual voice actors and music.
Leon, we've discussed this 100 times already, and yet you still fail to understand what's at stake. You, who's supposed to be our champion.
I think I understand well enough. What I don't understand is why we ought to cancel tomorrow's tournament in order to solve a problem that's 1,000 years away from affecting any of us. What difference is one day going to make? My duty as a champion isn't this madness. It's to carry out that championship match. That's what Galar wants, and what I want. It's what we've all been looking forward to for so long.
No. You don't understand. You still don't understand a thing. Look around us, Leon. Look at the Galar region stretched out before us, and know that the energy to keep this brilliant, glittering world alive will be exhausted a millennium from now. The people of Galar today will no longer even exist. What Galar wants today hardly matters. The future is more than just one day. We must act as quickly as we possibly can. We must take action to avoid tragedy, so that all can look forward to a better future.
In 1,000 years? Fine. Look, I think I understand your concerns, Chairman. And I give you my word, I'll help you with your plans, just as soon as tomorrow's match is over.
Wasn't that better? And to make matters worse, when we cut back to reality, they don't have any expressions. Tension is thick between us and we go our separate ways. Rose promises to change the course of history. The next morning before the match, Tian got ready by evolving into Zweilous using the last rare candy that we had in our backpack, and we give the haters one last dab before the match starts. Leon introduces the audience to the setup. We'll be facing old friends in the finals, starting off with Bede. Sporting a whole new costume change, Bede takes the stage. In an act of showboating, he begs us to settle the score. The stakes? If he loses, he quits forever. There's this lovely bit of dialogue where Bede mourns the days before we showed up and exposed his character flaws, talking about we made everything change for him, how he's been exiled from the league, forced to Opal's boot camp, and recognizes that he's doing something entirely out of character, all because of us. But still, he craves that strength, and his last line before we fight is, "My will hasn't been broken yet." Deep breaths, because here we go. Logan Paul's on point. Mawile from the enemy side. Intimidate hits the immediate debuff, but we can't think about that. Bigger Finneon to fry. Screech brings us back to even footing, and a play rough does pitiful damage. Drum Beating takes the Steely Fairy down, and it's Gardevoir up next. Anticipating the Psychic, we switch to Tian, only to be baited by a Wish. So out comes Ricegum to put it to sleep before David Dobrik comes to pick up the slack. Hex makes quick work of Gardevoir, and Rapidash follows suit. It was a tough pick, but Logan Paul took the field next, taking a Psycho Cut on switch. Another one, and we hit the Screech before popping our Dynamax and praying we can live the next Psycho Cut. Red health, but Rapidash is no more. Plus, Grassy Terrain gives us a little chunk of what we just lost. Bede's final Pokemon is a G-Max Hatterene, and his throw is perfect. Poised and rational, if I do say so myself. His gentle smile is contagious, and it holds on, even into his loss. Bede's growth is second to none, as he coyly plays at being angry at us and the audience for cheering him on after a loss. But beneath it, he still can't stop smiling. Him and Hop really are gems in the rough of these games. We move on to our first real match of the finals, Nessa, and as tempting as it is to lead Logan Paul, looking ahead, we can see she checks that with Golisopod. In fact, her whole team, excluding Dreadnought, has some means of checking grass types so that she can wipe them out before her G-Max. So here's how we play it. Lead Tro. First move, Toxic Spikes. Shadow Claw misses, and we're free to get up another layer of hazards. Not a bad start. It starts stacking Sword Stances while I move to recover what health I can. Now what? I test the waters by staying in for some liquidation damage, hoping for those sweet debuffs, but no. However, a Baneful Bunker gives us just what we're looking for. Golisopod lays Toxic on itself. Shadow Claw lands for significantly increased damage, and we send another liquidation back. Baneful Bunker one more time, and we trigger Golisopod's emergency exit, bringing out the Torpedo, Barraskewda. Knowing it has Drill Run, I chance the recover, and it's 2. Perfect. It keeps chipping away, but recover restores too much, and the poison is only getting harder on Barraskewda. Before we know it, Tro's at full health, and Barraskewda is helpless. Expecting a final Drill Run, we switch to David Dobrik, but Nessa uses Cheat Engine and spawns a full restore. Thankfully, all of Barraskewda's moves are contact, so it's easy to relay Baneful Bunker and catch back up to where we were. David Dobrik switches into a mean Throat Chop, and it's up to Tian to tank an Ice Fang and seal the win for us. Sea King wastes its turn setting up an Aqua Ring, and Logan Paul shows no mercy with Drum Beating. Golisopod comes back, and Tro picks up right where we left off, stalling Golisopod long enough for Logan Paul to come back and use double Rocky Helmet Poison Chip damage to take down the Water Kaiju. Pelipper is a powerhouse with a big mouth, so we pop our Dynamax a little early, and Pelipper falls just as quickly as it came. Dreadnought isn't even a threat, and before we know it, we're moving up in the league, boys. Advancements show that Bea will be our next challenge, and wow, deja vu. Looking ahead, we saw Hawlucha only had one move to damage David Dobrik, so we used the opportunity to get all our buffs. But Paralysis cripples us, and we're forced to switch after Surfetch'd comes out. Tro has no problem handling the hits, and gets out our entry hazards before stalling out Surfetch'd and Grapple-Locked. James Charles learns Foul Play, too easy, and we bring out Logan Paul to handle Phalanx. We let it get Rocky Helmet damage before Dynamaxing, and even Max Machamp's Max Flare doesn't scare me. The match was ours from the start. We learn after the match that Raihan defeated Piers, and he stops to give us some advice before the match starts.
Flattery will get you nowhere, you creature!
This time, Raihan decides to fight us in singles format. Knowing he leads with Torkoal, Tro is the obvious choice. Spikes go up, and we stall it until David Dobrik comes in to finish the job. Gooter's in, and this thing's thunder is devastating. But I left Driftblim with a Cherry Berry for just such an occasion. Flygon's up, and we pivot to James Charles to take the crunch, beefing up with Bulk Up and eating the Earthquake Sandstorm combo like it's nothing. Foul Play is a 2-hit KO, and as Turtonator comes in, Ricegum switches and Dynamaxes to prep for his last threat, Duraludon. It outlasts our own Dynamax, but Ricegum tanks it out, and Raihan is arrested shortly after this match for hiding human bodies in the Hammerlock Vault. We have a short chat with Hop, and Inteleon sums up my thoughts about this game so far. We dab on the haters one more time, and the big moment is here. This walk-on is exactly what it should be. Leon at home in his house, basking in the limelight as the person who is potentially his strongest challenger approaches. He talks to us about how he relishes in pushing past the fear of the audience, who he calls cruel, since at the end of the day, they really do want to see someone win and someone lose. We take our corners and Chairman Rose hijacks the broadcast to announce he's found out how to artificially induce the darkest day, and power spots all around the region overflow with life. This, by the way, this is what was supposed to happen back there on Route 9. We needed something like this. Where was this? We convene with Hop, and Leon heads off to handle the civilians, while we suggest to Hop that now is the perfect time to stop at a Zaxby's before the world ends, because neither of us have ever been. However, he's more focused on the Slumbering Weald, and we head there to search for legendary Pokemon instead. Boring. The fog intensifies, and Zacian and Zamazenta beckon us from deep within it. Giving chase brings us to one of the most beautiful places in the game. This is the shrine from the tapestries in Hammerlock. It gives me major Princess Mononoke vibes, and the soundtrack for this area is the foley of the running water and eerie ambient noises and chimes. We're faced with a rusted sword and shield. You'll claim whichever one aligns with the version you're playing. We attempt to fly back to Hammerlock, but since we're on a no-fly list, we have to hide in Hop's luggage. Returning to Hammerlock Stadium, Oleana explains to us that Rose was awakening the legendary Eternatus. The energy from its body is what allows for Dynamaxing. Rose is down in the underground power plant, and after bracing our team for what's ahead, we confront him. The power plant is a single cryptic podium built among giant cathode tubes whose filaments cast this golden glow on the whole room. When you confront Rose, there's no surprise in his speech. He was almost expecting you. He asks us what we plan on doing and attempts to reason with us by saying that Eternatus will provide Galar with the limitless energy he needs for everlasting prosperity. He's cemented this task in his mind as his mission, his destiny, and his theme certainly conveys that feeling. Rose's posture going into battle starts out as strictly business. He straightens his tie. His eyes are dead and focused. He takes no pleasure in this task. This is something that he must do. Rose clutches his Pokeball, and after a glance, his face softens. He raises an eyebrow, and a wild smile sweeps across his face before sending out Escavalier. David Dobrik comes out to lay the Will-O-Wisp, but Swords Dance is there to counter it. Hex connects for hefty damage, and Rose suggests we're overpowered? Oh, if only he knew. Hex shuts down Escavalier, but not before we take Iron Head damage, and Kling Klang is next. Ricegum comes out to check the Wild Charge, and after some deliberation, we hit it with a yawn. It sleeps while James Charles comes in to set up a bulk up before delivering the Foul Play and knocking out the Gear Amalgamation. Berserker comes up, and our strategy is straightforward. Pop our D-Max so that we can wipe Berserker and the incredibly tanky Ferrothorn that follows. Then, we can use our Max Guard to stall at least one turn of Copperaj's G-Max. Something to note is that when Rose's Pokeball grows in his hands, his face turns completely upside down. He's puzzled, almost as if he's rediscovered what the weight of a Pokeball is in his hands. It's clear that this isn't Rose's forte, but he's doing it out of necessity to further his goals. Tian and Tro tank G-Max Steel Surges, but Tro comes in to finish it off. However, I underestimated the power of Zen Headbutt, and all of a sudden, I'm stuck. I only have Logan Paul to take hits now. We lay down an Attract and we're brought down to 9 health. This is it. We either lose Logan here, or win against Rose. Luckily for us, we get the immobilization, and at the very last turn, just like that, Rose is defeated. A pensive chuckle leaves his lips, and he informs us he's pleased at the chance to battle. He also informs us that Leon is up top, and we take the lift to rendezvous with him for the final cutscene. When we reach the roof, Eternatus is actually intimidating. The subtle undulation of its body and the shifting core in its chest give it that alien feel that would unnerve anyone. Leon tries using a regular Pokeball, and as it bursts, we're granted this lovely scene. Not only does Charizard give us cover, but we get to see the inside of the actual Pokeball. We stall out Eternatus with a few good swaps, and watching its body fall grants us momentary relief. But then... Something about the image of Eternatus being launched by its chest, its head and body flapping like they're merely extensions of it, and this giant, hellish storm, reminiscent of that one boss fight from Bowser's Inside Story, they did something right here with this climax. For another reason too, because as our moves fail to phase the coiled form of Eternatus, we raise our sword and shield, calling forth Zacian and Zamazenta from the two innocent-looking rocks we ignored earlier. This cinematic is incredible. It has everything. Convincing character reactions, amazing music. I even love the way Zacian and Zamazenta fall. Zacian's posture is loose like a fighter stance, while Zamazenta comes to a fall with a firm thud, representing its tank-type role. The signature moves are utterly gorgeous, and with a little teamwork, we bring Eternatus down. This time, instead of Leon, we use a much higher grade Pokeball from Wish, and somehow cram a 300-foot dragon in there. I forgot to nickname him, by the way, so I just call him Casey Neistat. The day is saved, and Zacian and Zamazenta return to their resting places as the victorious sun breaks through the dark. We resume 3 days later, and from NPC chatter we hear that Rose turned himself in to the authorities. Hop gives us a few words of encouragement before our match, and it's time to make our final arrangements. I gotta say, going into this match, I was scared. We've had an incredible run together, and this match will quite literally be make or break. Either it starts here, or we start over. And having stayed up over 14 hours to play this, I was in no mood to fail. Leon's team is certainly challenging. None of his Pokemon are under level 60, but we have to do what we have to do. Big breath, and one final dab on the haters. It's time. Leon greets us on the pitch and thanks us for what we've done for Galar, and wishes us a champion time. It's so nice seeing so much of Hop in him, right down to the facial animations. The cape flies off, and he leads Aegislash, the Sword and Shield Pokemon, just as we anticipated. Tro comes out and Toxic Spikes go down. We live a Shadow Ball, managing to recover, and swap to Rice Gum, scarfing ourselves into Yawn, and barely living the Flash Cannon as Casey Neistat takes the stage. Shadow Ball takes a significant chunk of our health, and Flamethrower connects, but Casey is already beneath half health. Haxorus comes out, and this is threatening. James Charles pivots in, and it's time to try the new strategy out. We land attract, and even though she breaks through, Haxorus' Iron Tail misses. Bulk Up builds, and we gather as much momentum as we can before Iron Tail finally connects, still doing a huge amount of damage. Leon disqualifies himself from the run, and Leech Life hits like a truck on rails. We end the bout with Haxorus, missing about only 2/5 of our health, and it's Cinderace's turn. Since we outlast Pyro Ball enough times to end the match just above red, we go for Attract on Seismitoad, but even though it connects, James Charles gets Sister cancelled. It's up to Logan Paul. Drum beating is an easy Oko, and his next big threat emerges. Dragapult, the definitely not broken Pokemon. It's time. We've made it this far. Logan Paul goes everyday bro diss track mode, and Dragapult falls to Poison and Max Overgrowth. Out comes Charizard, and we know what's coming. I knew what's coming when I hit that button. Stall it for as long as we can, but in the end, we have to say goodbye to a hero. Rest in pieces, Logan Paul. Rice Gum carries the battle forward and sets up the Sandstorm for chip damage, only to fall to another G-Max Wildfire. Max Rockfall lands, but Casey Neistat lays down a Toxic. However, chip damage giveth, and chip damage taketh away. Rest in peace, Casey. We hardly knew ye. David Dobrik comes out to a Fire Blast, and Hex claims a good slice of health, but we lose yet another brave soldier. It's not looking good. I was bouncing out of my seat on the other side of my screen. Tro's all we got. He comes in and catches a burn almost immediately, but we don't mind. We just had to live that. And a final liquidation secures us the title of champion. We did it. Pokemon Sword, no extra grinding, no Pokemon Center healing, Nuzlocke deaths, and with only one move that can do damage on each Pokemon. And we beat this game. I felt my eyes getting hot after this one. I still do recording this right now, knowing that despite losing almost all of our party, it was still possible. These games have huge underlying flaws, and while Leon is an attempt to punish you with a steeper than average progression, we suffered our way to the top still. The ending leaves us with the lesson that Leon and all of us should work together to look ahead, work for a better future. The fireworks pop, the credits start to roll, and we're left with just our thoughts and this bubbly music. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the band that's not even using unique animations, it's just default attack ones, but whatever. I must say, it feels good to prove a point. Somewhere in these games, somewhere in this franchise, an important something has been lost. It's not just simple difficulty, it's so much more. Pokemon is losing the heart and enchantment that it so delicately created from the start, hampered by poor business practices and a growing sense of disconnect. I want this video to bring people together. Let's take some advice from Leon. Let's look to the future. We can make a difference. Speak up to Pokemon. Hell, make this video blow up so other people can see. Let's raise awareness of what these games could be so that maybe we can show new fans the kinds of adventures that we shared, not the butchered ones that they're being handed. Thank you again so much for watching. If you'd like to support what I do here and see more content like this, you can like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned. And if you didn't like it, please dislike the video and tell me what's wrong with it in the comments. Or leave something nice. I always love reading those. I'll see you all in the next episode of whatever I make. And until then, stay safe. Bye!